Danny Carter had been to 17 different alien space stations in his 3 years as a trade negotiator, but Nexus 7 was by far the strangest. The air smelled like copper and flowers. The lights changed color every few hours to match the sleep cycles of a dozen different species. And the food court had something called flame soup that was actually on fire when they served it. He stood in front of a mirror in his small quarters, adjusting his formal jacket for the third time. Tonight was important. The Sithrani were one of the most powerful trading species in the galaxy, and Earth needed their mining technology. His job was simple: be polite, be professional, and don't mess anything up. "You look fine," said Laura Simmons from the doorway. She was his colleague and friend, a woman with short brown hair and a talent for staying calm when everything went wrong. "Stop fidgeting." "I'm not fidgeting," Danny said, fidgeting with his collar. "I'm preparing. You've read the cultural briefing 6 times. 7, actually." Laura smiled and shook her head. "Just remember the basics. Don't touch anyone without permission. Don't refuse food. And don't make promises you can't keep." The Sithrani take words very seriously. Danny nodded. He had memorized all of this. The Sithrani were a tall, elegant species with silver-blue skin and eyes that seemed to glow in low light. They valued honor, family bonds, and direct honesty. Lying was considered a serious crime in their culture. Even small lies could destroy a person's reputation forever. "I've got this," Danny said, though his stomach was doing flips. The formal dinner was held in a grand hall on the station's upper level. Crystal chandeliers hung from the ceiling, casting rainbow patterns on the walls. Long tables were covered with food from 20 different worlds. Danny recognized some dishes from Earth-roasted vegetables, grilled fish, something that looked like bread. Other dishes were completely alien. One plate held what appeared to be glowing purple eggs. Another contained a tower of meat that was still moving slightly. Danny decided to stick with the bread. The Sithrani delegation sat at the head table. There were 5 of them, all dressed in flowing robes of deep blue and silver. At the center sat Lord Harath Corinth, a broad-shouldered male with a stern face and calculating eyes. He was one of the most powerful trade lords in Sithrani space, and getting this deal would be a major victory for Earth. But Danny's attention kept drifting to the woman sitting beside Lord Harath. Her name was Vera Corinth, his daughter. She had the same silver-blue skin as the others, but her features were softer, more expressive. Her violet eyes seemed to catch every detail in the room. When she spoke, the other Sithrani listened carefully. The negotiations had been going on for 3 days now. Danny had made his proposals. The Sithrani had made counteroffers. Back and forth, point by point, number by number. It was exhausting work, but Danny was starting to make progress. Tonight was supposed to be a break from business, a chance for both sides to relax and build trust. But Vera had other ideas. "Tell me, Mr. Carter," she said, her voice smooth and musical, "why should my people share our mining technology with Earth? Your species is young. You have been traveling between stars for less than 200 years. What do you offer that we cannot find elsewhere?" Danny set down his drink. This was a test. He could feel it. "We offer perspective," he said carefully. "Humans see problems differently. We're creative. We adapt. Your mining drills are the best in the galaxy, but we've already thought of 3 ways to make them more efficient." Vera raised one elegant eyebrow. "You think you can improve Sithrani technology?" "I think we can learn from each other." She studied him for a long moment. Then she smiled, a small, sharp smile that made Danny's heart beat a little faster. "You are bold, human. I appreciate boldness." The dinner continued. More food came and went. Conversations flowed around the table. Danny found himself talking to Vera more and more as the night went on. She was smart, incredibly smart. She understood economics, politics, strategy. Every time Danny thought he had made a clever point, she found a flaw in his logic. It was frustrating. It was also thrilling. "You are not like other human negotiators I have met," Vera said during a quiet moment. "Most of them are either too aggressive or too timid. You are balanced." Danny laughed. "That might be the nicest thing anyone has said about me during a trade deal. I do not give compliments I do not mean." "I know. Your people don't lie." Vera tilted her head. "Does that bother you?" "Many species find our honesty uncomfortable." "No," Danny said, and he meant it. "I think it's refreshing. Half of my job back home is trying to figure out what people actually mean. With you, I don't have to guess." The night grew late. The other guests began to leave. Danny knew he should go too. There were more negotiations tomorrow, but he couldn't bring himself to walk away. Talking to Vera felt easy, natural, like they had known each other for years instead of days. "I should thank you," Danny said as the servants began clearing the tables. "You've been trying to poke holes in my arguments all night, but I've learned more from you in a few hours than I learned from a month of briefing documents." "That is because documents do not argue back." "Exactly." Danny grinned. "Honestly, with skills like yours, I'd be lucky if you stuck around forever. You're the kind of partner anyone would want." The room went silent. Danny blinked. The Sithrani guards, who had been standing quietly by the walls, suddenly turned to face him. Lord Harith's eyes went wide. Even Laura, who had been chatting with a Sithrani merchant across the room, stopped mid-sentence. Vera stared at Danny. Her violet eyes seemed to glow brighter than before. Then, slowly, a grin spread across her face. "I accept your bond offer, human," she said. Danny laughed nervously. "That's funny." For a second, it sounded like you said. "I accept," Vera repeated. She stood and placed her hand over her heart. "Before my father, before my people, before the stars themselves, I accept your proposal of eternal partnership." The guards bowed to Danny. Lord Harith leaned back in his chair, his expression unreadable. Laura rushed to Danny's side. Her face was pale. "Danny," she whispered, her voice tight with panic. "What did you just do?" Danny opened his mouth to answer. Nothing came out. He looked at Vera, at her glowing eyes and triumphant smile, and felt the ground disappear beneath his feet. He had definitely missed something in those cultural briefings. The Sithrani diplomatic quarters were beautiful. Crystal walls reflected soft blue light. Comfortable chairs were arranged around a low table. Fresh flowers from a distant world filled the air with a sweet, calming scent. Danny did not feel calm. "Let me understand this correctly," he said, pacing back and forth across the polished floor. "I said something nice about Vera, a compliment. And now we're married?" Lord Harith sat in one of the chairs, watching Danny with patient eyes. "Not married. Bonded. There is a difference." "What's the difference?" "Marriage, as you humans practice it, can be dissolved. A bond cannot." Danny stopped pacing. His stomach dropped. "Cannot? As in never?" "A bond is sacred," Vera said. She stood by the window, looking out at the stars. Her voice was calm, but Danny could see tension in her shoulders. When a Sithrani offers partnership forever, they mean forever. When they speak those words before family, it becomes law. "But I didn't mean," Danny caught himself. He was about to say he didn't mean it, but the Sithrani didn't understand that concept. To them, words were truth. Always. Laura sat in a corner, her face buried in her hands. "I told you," she muttered. "I told you not to make promises you couldn't keep." "I didn't think I was making a promise. I was just being friendly." Lord Harith frowned. "You told my daughter that you would be lucky to have her as a partner forever. You said this in my presence, which makes me a witness. By Sithrani law, that is a proposal of bonding. But humans don't do that, Danny said desperately. We say things we don't completely mean all the time. It's called being polite, or joking, or just talking. The Sithrani exchanged confused looks. You say things you do not mean? Lord Harith asked slowly, as if Danny had just admitted to a strange illness. Yes, all the time. Why would anyone do such a thing? Danny ran his fingers through his hair. How could he explain human communication to a species that had never learned to lie? Sarcasm, exaggeration, white lies, polite compliments, all of these were normal parts of human conversation. But to the Sithrani, every word was a promise. It's complicated, Danny said weakly. Lord Harris stood. His tall frame towered over Danny, and his glowing eyes were hard. What is not complicated, Mr. Carter, is the situation you have created. You have offered a bond to my daughter. She has accepted. If you reject her now, it will be seen as a grave insult to my family and to all Sithrani. What kind of insult? The kind that ends trade negotiations. The kind that creates enemies. Lord Harith leaned closer. The kind that could damage relations between our species for generations. Danny felt sick. 3 years of work. Thousands of hours of preparation. Earth needed this deal. People were counting on him. And he had ruined everything with one careless sentence. There has to be a solution, Larva said, finally looking up. Some way to fix this without causing a diplomatic disaster. Lord Harith considered this. There is the knowing period. Vera turned from the window. Father, it is her right to know, Lord Harith said firmly. He looked at Danny. Sithrani bonds are not completed immediately. There's a period of 7 station cycles, roughly 2 of your Earth weeks, during which both parties spend time together. Learn about each other. This is the knowing period. And after that? After that, the bond is finalized, permanent. Danny's mind raced. 2 weeks. He had 2 weeks to figure out how to escape this situation without starting an interstellar incident. I need to contact my superiors, he said. Lord Harith nodded. You may use the communication room. But understand this, Mr. Carter. I am giving you time because I respect your species and because my daughter seems to find you interesting. Do not make me regret this decision. He swept out of the room, his robes flowing behind him. Danny turned to Vera. She had not moved from the window. Her reflection in the crystal wall showed an expression he couldn't read. I'm sorry, he said quietly. I didn't mean to trap you in this. She finally looked at him. Her violet eyes were thoughtful. Do you think I am trapped? Aren't you? I could have refused your words. I could have explained to you that humans do not understand bonding customs. I chose not to. Danny frowned. Why? Vera was silent for a long moment. Then she walked toward him, her footsteps soft on the crystal floor. She stopped close enough that Danny could see the small patterns of lighter blue that swirled across her skin like distant galaxies. I have met many males who wish to bond with me, she said. Trade lords' sons, military commanders, political leaders. All of them wanted my father's power, his wealth, his connections. She paused. You are the first person who complimented my mind, who said I was a valuable partner, not a valuable prize. Danny didn't know what to say. I could release you, Vera continued. I could tell my father that I reject the bond, and you would be free. There would be some embarrassment, but no lasting damage to your trade agreement. You could do that? Yes, her eyes searched his face. But first, I want to ask you something. Anything. Do humans always say things they do not mean? Or did some part of you mean what you said? The question hung in the air between them. Danny thought about his words at the dinner, about how easy it had been to talk to Vera, about how she made him think harder, Argue better. Laugh more freely. Had he meant it? I don't know, he admitted finally. I barely know you. Vera nodded slowly. That is an honest answer. She stepped back. Perhaps that is what the knowing period is for. To learn if words spoken quickly are true or false. She walked to the door, then paused. The communication room is down the hall to your left. I suspect your director Walsh will want to speak with you. Danny groaned. He had completely forgotten about his boss. Vera smiled, a small, almost sad smile. Good luck, Danny Carter. I suspect you will need it. She left. And Danny stood alone in the beautiful room, surrounded by crystal and starlight. Wondering how his life had become so complicated so quickly, he found the communication room and made the call. Director Walsh's face appeared on the screen almost immediately. He was a heavy man with gray hair and permanent stress lines around his eyes. Right now, those lines were deeper than ever. Carter, Walsh growled. Please tell me the reports I'm getting are wrong. That depends on what the reports say. They say you proposed marriage to the Sithrani trade lord's daughter. Danny winced. Then they're not wrong. Walsh's face turned red. For a moment, Danny thought his boss might actually explode. Instead, Walsh took a deep breath and spoke through clenched teeth. Fix it. I don't care how. Just fix it without starting a war. The screen went black. Danny sat alone in the darkness, thinking about Vera's question. Did he mean it? He still didn't know the answer. The knowing period, Danny discovered, was exhausting. Every morning, he and Vera were required to share breakfast. Every evening, they attended events together, concerts, art shows, diplomatic gatherings. During the day, they were expected to learn about each other's cultures, families, and beliefs. At first, Danny treated it like a job. He asked polite questions, gave polite answers, and counted the hours until this strange situation would end. He would find some diplomatic solution, apologize to everyone involved, and go back to his normal life. But somewhere around the fourth day, something changed. They were sitting in a small music hall on the station's middle level. A Valorian musician was playing an instrument that looked like a harp made of light. The sounds were strange but beautiful, rising and falling like ocean waves. Do you have music like this on Earth? Vera asked quietly. Some, Danny said. We have thousands of different styles. Rock, jazz, classical, electronic. Everyone has different favorites. What is your favorite? Danny thought about it. I like old songs. The kind my grandmother used to play when I was young. Simple melodies. Words that mean something. Vera smiled. I did not expect that. What did you expect? Something loud, aggressive. She glanced at him with amusement. Humans have a reputation for being intense. Danny laughed. We can be, but not all the time. He paused. What about you? What kind of music do you like? Vera's expression shifted. For a moment, she looked almost embarrassed. I prefer music from other worlds. Sithrani music is very formal, structured. It follows ancient rules and patterns. She lowered her voice. I find it boring. That's rebellious of you. My father would be horrified to hear me say it. They shared a look, and Danny felt something he hadn't expected. A connection. A small moment of understanding between two people from completely different worlds. The days continued, and the moments kept coming. Danny learned that Vera secretly wrote poetry. She showed him one piece, just one, about watching stars being born in distant nebulae. The words were simple but powerful. Danny didn't know the Sithrani language, so she translated it for him, line by line. That's beautiful, he said honestly. My tutors said poetry was a waste of time for someone of my status, Vera replied. I was supposed to study economics and war strategy. Do you still write? Sometimes. when no one is watching. In return, Danny told Vera about Earth, about the blue oceans and green forests, about the billions of people living in cities that never slept, about the wars humanity had fought against itself, and the slow, painful process of learning to work together. "Your species is very strange," Vera said one afternoon. They were walking through a garden filled with plants from 100 different worlds. "You fight each other constantly, yet you also create such beauty. Art, music, stories. How do you hold both things inside you?" "I don't know," Danny admitted. "Maybe that's what makes us human. We're complicated, messy. We make mistakes. Sithrani do not make mistakes. Everyone makes mistakes." Vera stopped walking. She turned to face him, her violet eyes serious. "No, you do not understand. Sithrani truly do not make mistakes. Every action is planned. Every word is calculated. We are taught from birth to be perfect." "That sounds exhausting." "It is." She looked away. "It is why I accepted your bond offer so quickly. You were imperfect, unplanned. You said something without thinking about every possible consequence." A small smile crossed her face. It was refreshing. Danny felt something warm spread through his chest. He tried to ignore it. On the 6th day, everything changed. They were attending a formal reception for visiting dignitaries when a new Sithrani arrived. He was tall, even for his species, with sharp features and cold eyes. His robes were dark purple, a color that Danny later learned was reserved for military nobility. Lord Keth. Voram walked into the room like he owned it. The other Sithrani grew quiet. Even Vera tensed beside Danny. "Who is that?" Danny whispered. "Trouble," Vera replied. Keth approached them directly. He looked at Danny the way someone might look at an insect, with disgust and mild curiosity. "So this is the human," Keth said. His voice was smooth and poisonous. "The one who stole what was promised to me." Danny felt his stomach tighten. "Promised?" "Vera and I were arranged to bond since childhood," Keth explained. "Our families agreed. The contracts were prepared. Everything was perfect." His eyes narrowed. "Then you appeared." "Lord Keth," Vera said firmly, "the arrangement was never finalized. I made no promise to you. Your father made promises. My father does not control who I bond with." Keth's expression darkened. He stepped closer to Danny, close enough that Danny could smell something like burnt metal on his breath. "Humans do not understand honor," Keth said quietly. "You use words like toys. You make promises and break them without shame. But here, in civilized space, actions have consequences." "I haven't broken any promises," Danny said, keeping his voice steady. "Not yet." Keth smiled, but there was no warmth in it. "I challenge you, human. A duel of honor. If you truly wish to bond with Vera, prove your worth." The room went completely silent. Danny could feel dozens of eyes on him, Sithrani, humans, and aliens from species he couldn't name. Everyone was waiting. "What kind of duel?" Danny asked. "Combat. Energy staves. To surrender or unconsciousness." Keth's smile widened. "Unless you wish to hide behind diplomatic immunity like a coward." Danny knew he should refuse. He had no combat training. Keth was clearly a warrior. His movements, his posture, everything about him screamed danger. Accepting this challenge would be suicide. But if he refused, he would prove Keth right. Humans would be seen as weak, as dishonorable. And Vera would be forced to bond with this cold, cool male who saw her as property. Danny thought about all the things he had learned about Vera over the past 6 days. Her poetry, her laughter, her dreams of something more than political arrangements and cold perfection. He made his decision. "I accept," Danny said. Vey, or I grabbed his arm. "Danny, no. You cannot win this fight. Maybe not, Danny agreed. But I can show up. Keth laughed coldly. The duel will be tomorrow at sunset. Try not to run away before then, human. He turned and walked out, leaving silence behind him. Laura appeared at Danny's side. Her face was pale. Tell me you have a plan. Danny watched Keth disappear into the crowd. His hands were shaking, but his voice was steady. I have something better than a plan, he said. I have stubbornness. Laura did not look reassured. The dueling arena was an ancient place. Carved from black stone and lit by floating crystals, it had witnessed thousands of honor fights over the centuries. The circular floor was marked with symbols that Danny couldn't read, probably rules or prayers, or warnings to the fighters. The stands were full. Word had spread quickly about the human who challenged a Sithrani noble, and representatives from dozens of species had come to watch. Danny saw curious faces, skeptical faces, and more than a few faces that clearly expected entertainment from watching him fail. Laura stood at the edge of the arena, her arms crossed tight against her chest. It's not too late to back out. Yes, it is, Danny said. He was wearing simple fighting clothes, a sleeveless shirt and loose pants that someone had provided. His arms looked thin compared to the muscular Sithrani warriors around him. This is crazy. You've never held a weapon in your life. I held a baseball bat once. That's not the same thing. Danny turned to face his friend. Laura's eyes were wet, and he realized she was genuinely afraid for him. Not annoyed, not frustrated afraid. I have to do this, he said gently. If I run away now, they'll think all humans are cowards. And Vera is not your responsibility. Maybe not, but I made her a promise, even if I didn't mean to. Danny smiled slightly. I'm starting to think I might have meant it. Laura stared at him. Then she shook her head and stepped back. You're an idiot, Danny Carter. Probably. Across the arena, Keth Voran was warming up. He moved through practice forms with his energy staff, each motion precise and deadly. The staff glowed with blue light, leaving trails in the air as it spun. Other Sithrani watched him with obvious admiration. He was clearly a master fighter. Danny's energy staff felt heavy and awkward in his hands. A Sithrani trainer had given him a quick lesson that morning: how to hold it, how to block, how to strike. It wasn't enough. It wasn't even close to enough. But he was here anyway. A loud horn sounded through the arena. The crowd fell silent. A Sithrani official stepped into the center of the floor, his voice booming across the stone chamber. This is a duel of honor between Lord Keth Voran of House Voran and Danny Carter of Earth. The fight will continue until one fighter surrenders or is unable to continue. May the stars judge fairly. Danny walked to his starting position. His legs felt like water. His heart was pounding so hard he could hear it in his ears. Keth stood across from him, that cold smile still on his face. I will try to leave you alive, human. It would be inconvenient to start a war over your corpse. Thanks, Danny managed. Very thoughtful. The horn sounded again. Keth moved like lightning. Danny barely saw the first strike coming. He raised his staff to block and felt the impact shake his entire body. Before he could recover, Keth had already spun around and hit him in the side. Pain exploded through Danny's ribs. He stumbled backward. Keth pressed forward, raining down blows that Danny could barely deflect. Each block hurt. Each dodge was too slow. The crowd was shouting, but Danny couldn't hear individual words, just a wall of noise. A strike caught Danny's shoulder. Another hit his leg. He fell to one knee, gasping for breath. Stay down, Keth said, standing over him. This is already embarrassing enough for your species. Danny's vision was blurry. Blood dripped from a cut above his eye. Every part of his body was screaming at him to give up, to surrender, to end this humiliation. He got back up. Kath frowned. He struck again, harder this time. Danny went down again, hitting the stone floor with a grunt. I said stay down. Danny pushed himself up to his hands and knees. His arms were shaking. His breath came in ragged gasps. He got back up. The crowd went quiet. Something had shifted in the air. The Sithrani spectators were no longer laughing or cheering. They were watching with different expressions now: confusion, curiosity, and something that might have been respect. Kath attacked again. Danny tried to block, but he was too slow. The energy staff cracked against his chest, and he felt something break. Probably a rib. The pain was incredible. He fell. The stone floor was cold against his face. Stay down. Kath's voice was angry now, frustrated. Why won't you stay down? Danny coughed. Blood splattered on the stone. Slowly, painfully, he put his hands flat on the floor. He got back up. This is pointless, Kath snarled. You cannot win. You know this. Everyone knows this. Why do you keep fighting? Danny raised his staff. His grip was weak. His stance was terrible. But he was standing. Because I don't know how to stop, he said through bloody lips. Something happened then. Danny wasn't sure if it was luck or desperation, or just the universe deciding to give him one small moment. Kath swung his staff in a powerful overhead strike, a killing blow if it landed. But Danny didn't try to block it. He didn't try to dodge it. He stepped forward, inside Kath's reach, and swung his own staff in an ugly, untrained arc. The blow caught Kath in the stomach. It wasn't powerful. It wasn't elegant. It was the kind of hit that any trained fighter would be ashamed of. But it landed. Kath stumbled back, more surprised than hurt. His eyes were wide. How? Humans don't fight with forms, Danny gasped. We improvise. The crowd erupted. Not with cheers, but with something like amazement. The human had landed a blow on a Sithrani master. One single blow after being beaten nearly unconscious. Kath's face twisted with rage. He raised his staff for another attack. Stop. The voice cut through the arena like a blade. Everyone turned. Vera stood at the edge of the fighting floor. Her violet eyes were blazing. Her hands were clenched at her sides. I invoke the right of soul worth, she declared. This human has proven his conviction. I demand this duel end. Murmurs rippled through the crowd. Kath's jaw tightened. He has not won. The right of soul worth does not require victory, Mara shot back. It requires proof of genuine commitment. This human has been struck down 4 times. He has risen 4 times. He continues to fight despite knowing he cannot win. She stepped onto the fighting floor, placing herself between Danny and Kath. If that is not conviction, then the words have no meaning. The Sithrani official conferred with several elders in the stands. Danny swayed on his feet, barely conscious. He could see Vera's face, but it was blurry. She looked angry. She looked fierce. She looked beautiful. The right is valid, the official announced finally. Lord Kath, your honor remains intact. The human has proven his worth through endurance rather than combat. This duel is concluded. Kath's expression was pure hatred. He looked at Danny, then at Vera, then back at Danny. This is not over, he said quietly. He threw his staff to the ground and stormed out of the arena. His supporters followed, leaving angry whispers in their wake. The moment they were gone, Danny's legs gave out. Vera caught him before he hit the floor. Her arms were strong around him, and her face was close to his. You fool, she said. Her voice was shaking. You beautiful, stubborn fool. Did I do okay? Danny managed. Vera laughed a real laugh, full of emotion. You were terrible. You were the worst fighter I have ever seen. But I got up. Yes, her eyes met his, and Danny saw tears forming in them. You got up. Medical personnel rushed onto the floor. Danny felt himself being lifted onto a stretcher. The last thing he saw before losing consciousness was Vera's face, still watching him, still smiling. He had never seen anything so wonderful. Danny woke up in the medical bay with pain in places he didn't know existed. His ribs were wrapped in some kind of healing gel that glowed softly blue. His shoulder had been treated with alien medicine that smelled like mint and copper. The cut above his eye had been sealed, leaving only a thin pink line. Everything hurt, but he was alive. "Welcome back," said a familiar voice. Danny turned his head slowly, because even that movement sent waves of pain through his body, and saw Vera sitting in a chair beside his bed. She looked tired. Her silver blue skin was paler than usual, and there were shadows under her violet eyes. "How long have you been there?" Danny asked. His voice came out rough and dry. "Since they brought you in." "About 14 hours. You should sleep." "You should not tell me what to do." But she smiled as she said it, taking the edge off the words. Danny tried to laugh, then immediately regretted it. His broken rib had been treated, but it was still sensitive. He groaned and settled back against the pillow. "How bad is it?" he asked. "2 broken ribs, 1 cracked. Severe bruising across 60% of your body. A mild concussion. Various cuts and scrapes." Vera listed the injuries in a calm, clinical voice, but her hands were trembling slightly. "The doctors say you will recover fully in a few weeks." "That's good. It is a miracle." Vera's voice cracked. "Do you understand what could have happened? Keth is a trained warrior. He has killed people in duels before. He could have." She stopped, unable to finish thought. Danny reached out and took her hand. Her skin was cool and smooth, different from human skin, but not unpleasant. She looked at their joined hands with surprise, then slowly tightened her grip. "I'm okay," Danny said softly. "You are not okay. You are broken in several places, but I'm still here." They sat in silence for a long moment. The medical equipment hummed quietly around them. Through the window, Danny could see ships passing by against a backdrop of stars. The door opened, and Director Walsh walked in. He looked like he hadn't slept either. His clothes were wrinkled, and his eyes were red. But his expression wasn't angry. If anything, he looked impressed. "Carter," Walsh said. Nodding. "Director." Walsh glanced at Vera, then back at Danny. He seemed to be choosing his words carefully. "The Sithrani High Council sent a message this morning. They were very impressed by your performance in the duel." Walsh paused. "They've agreed to the trade agreement. Better terms than we originally requested. Apparently, your stubbornness convinced them that humans are trustworthy partners." Danny blinked. "We got the deal?" "We got the deal. The mining technology, the training programs, everything." Walsh allowed himself a small smile. "You look terrible, Carter, but you did good work." "Thank you, sir." Walsh nodded again, then hesitated at the door. "There's also the matter of your personal situation." He glanced at Vera uncomfortably. "I've been told there are options. Ways to dissolve the bond quietly without causing offense. If you want to take that route, Earth will support you." Danny looked at Vera. She was watching him with careful eyes, her expression neutral. But her hand was still holding his. "I'll handle it, sir," Danny said. "Thank you." Walsh left, and silence returned to the room. "Your director is giving you permission to leave," Vera said quietly. "You could go home. Return to your normal life. Forget any of this happened. Is that what you want?" Vera pulled her hand away. She stood and walked to the window, her back to Danny. When she spoke, her voice was barely above a whisper. "What I want does not matter. I trapped you in this situation. My acceptance of your words, it was selfish, impulsive." She wrapped her arms around herself. "You deserve the chance to make a real choice. not one forced by cultural misunderstanding. Danny pushed himself up to a sitting position. It hurt badly, but he ignored the pain. "Vera, look at me." She didn't move. "Please." Slowly, she turned. Her violet eyes were wet with unshed tears. "These past 2 weeks," Danny said carefully, "have been the strangest, most confusing, most painful weeks of my life. I nearly started an interstellar war. I got beaten half to death in a duel. I still don't fully understand your culture, and I'm sure you don't fully understand mine." Vera's expression was unreadable. "Is this supposed to convince me of something?" "I'm not finished." Danny took a deep breath. "These past 2 weeks have also been the most alive I've ever felt. When I'm with you, I think harder. I laugh more. I want to be better, not because you demand it, but because you deserve it." He met her eyes. "You asked me if I meant what I said at the dinner. I couldn't answer then. But I can answer now. And I meant it. Maybe I didn't know it at the time. Maybe it was an accident. But somewhere in my stupid human brain, I saw you, your mind, your fire, your soul, and I knew. You're the kind of partner anyone would want." He smiled despite the pain. "I'd be lucky if you stuck around forever." Vera stood frozen. Tears were streaming down her face now, leaving silver tracks on her blue skin. "You understand what you are saying," she said. "The bond with a Sithrani is not like human marriage. It cannot be undone. If you choose this, you choose forever. I know. Our species are different. There will be challenges, misunderstandings, pain. I know. You could be making the biggest mistake of your life." Danny held out his hand. "Then let's make it together." For a long moment, Vera didn't move. Danny's heart was pounding. He had never been so terrified in his life, not even when facing Keth in the arena. Then Vera crossed the room in 3 quick steps and took his hand. She leaned down and pressed her lips to his a human kiss, something she must have researched. It was gentle and fierce at the same time, and it tasted like tears and hope. When she pulled back, she was laughing. "You are the strangest creature I have ever met, Danny Carter. Is that a yes?" "It is a yes." She kissed him again, lighter this time. "It is absolutely a yes." Later, when Danny was strong enough to walk, they went to the observation deck. The stars stretched out before them in endless patterns, galaxies, nebulae, points of light that had been burning for billions of years. Vera stood beside him, her shoulder touching his. They didn't speak. They didn't need to. "So," said a voice from behind them. "Does this mean I call her sister-in-law now, or is there a Sithrani word for that?" They turned. Laura was standing in the doorway with her arms crossed. Her expression was a mixture of exasperation and affection. "There's a word," Vera said seriously. "It is very long and difficult to pronounce. Most humans cannot say it correctly." "Great. I'll stick with sister-in-law." Danny laughed, and this time it only hurt a little. He looked at Vera, at Laura, at the stars beyond the window. He had come to Nexus 7 to negotiate a trade deal. He was leaving with broken ribs, new friends, and an alien wife. Humans really were unpredictable creatures. Lavra walked forward and stood beside them at the window. "The transport to Earth leaves in 3 days. Will you be ready?" Danny looked at Vera. She looked back at him. "Actually," Danny said, "I think we might take the scenic route. There's still a lot we need to learn about each other." Lavra rolled her eyes. "Of course there is." But she was smiling. "Send me pictures." She left, and Danny and Vera were alone again with the stars. "Scenic route?" Vera asked. "I thought we could visit your homeworld. Meet your family properly. Not as an accidental groom, but as someone who chose to be there." Vera's eyes softened. "My father will interrogate you for hours. I survived a duel. I can survive interrogation." You did not survive the duel. You were beaten unconscious. Details. Vera laughed and leaned against him. Her head rested on his shoulder, cool and comfortable. Danny Carter, she said quietly, I think I am going to enjoy being bonded to you. Danny smiled and watched the stars. Forever? He asked. Forever. And somewhere in the vast darkness of space, a future began strange and wonderful and completely unplanned. Just the way humans liked it.